Hello and welcome. So excited to have Dirce Eduardo Hernandez joining us, and we're looking forward to AI and cyber in higher education pathways to recognize certifications. Take it away, Dirce.
Thank you, Philippa. Thank you for this great event. Really appreciate being here. So I'm going to be talking about, basically a synthesized version of an article that got published that I have published for higher ed risk. The link should be on the chat, page 9. So bridging AI governance with AI innovation in primarily the higher education space. I have heard leaders today, Peter, I'm looking at you, saying that traditional educational programs are not up to par, and he's right. But unfortunately or fortunately, depending on what side of the aisle you're on, they're not going away. Academia is not going away. So I rather fight the good fight, try to flip programs around, get them to where they need to be, so we can have people in those programs be able to graduate, be able to have those degrees, and get hired. Right. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. And why does this matter? Right. So when it comes to AI and academic programs as a whole, academic programs are starting to realize that AI is embedded in all parts of the security stack, right? So what does that mean? Adaptive authentication, autonomous SOC tooling. We heard those things today, but only 18% of accredited programs in the United States of higher ed have formal AI governance degree programs in place, right? So that's not a good thing. Shout out to the programs that are building AI, education and training out there. I'm looking at UTSA here in San Antonio, South Texas College in McAllen. They're having a program to be slated to open in 2026. So more and more organizations and universities are getting on par to understand that if they want to hire, if they want their students to be hired, they need to get with the program, and that's what's going on, right? So, and what I'm talking through is setting yourself up for success as a student and first year 1 to 3 year career field timing to look at a certification, target a particular certification. I'm going to be talking about two in particular. Um, to talk about how you can use those certifications, not only just to get certified, but use it in your academic training and your programs. And as you start doing the day to day, the operational, the thing, right? So some of the different things to keep in mind is having risk informed decisions, right? Everyone talks about being risk averse, proceeding with risk in mind. What does that even mean? So the Cloud Security Alliance warns that shortcuts around ethics, private invite, significant legal, operational, and reputational risk. So people that are working with AI need to emphasize measured governance over panic-driven control. So not just throw everything at the kitchen sink and see what sticks, but understanding what controls, what risk measures are more effective for the work you're doing operationally, for higher level leadership to see the value. So you're looking at KRI, KPI sort of delineations, and then from a discipline perspective, standardize the collection data, clean the data up, know what the data is. Data inventories are going to be more critical than ever to label any machine learning build, any LLM that you're working on. Miami-Dade College has a really good program for, you know, testing AI control cycles, and they really went through the process of really going in there and cleaning everything up and testing everything until they actually went to production, right? So, and that's actual academic program that's teaching their students how to effectively drive an AI-driven management risk assessment program and control, right? So some of the different things to look out for: shadow AI, being vigilant in regards to bias, right? Unvetted models can hard code bias and leak data. And from a security perspective, that's the worst thing that could happen, right? So understanding how to have continuous monitoring, being in danger of shadow AI deployments through AI, shadow AI or shadow IT deployments as well, and have the HITL. So I'm gonna say what that means, but if you guys know what that means, drop it in the chat. HITL, human in the loop, right? Have someone that can verify, that can assess, a person that can actually validate what's actually happening with the AI enablement, right? If you don't have human in the loops, that's going to be a risk itself. That's going to be an issue. So understand that particular paradigm and understand how you can be in there and call those shots and be in charge of that. And that in itself is a whole career field. That in itself is a job. That in itself is going to be something that needs to be done throughout the development lifecycle process, the procurement process, marketing, you name it. All the business, all the C-suite leaders are looking at AI from all sorts of angles, and that's where you find your niche into what you're going to be working on, what you're be passionate about for a future job, future career, right? So when it comes to transparency and roles around this, right? I'm going to borrow something from UT San Antonio. They're having a school of AI that's just, getting off the ground here. They have something called the cohort for AI responsibility mandate, explainable AI, XAI, if you're not familiar with that, what that means. They actually have the decision logs before they go live. They study the explainability models into what they procure into their environment. And it's really good, kind of rinse and repeat cleaning cycles for understanding, not only for students in the program, for anyone that comes in and partners with them to understand what explainable AI models and what an effective explain AI model looks like. So keep that in mind, right, as you're building your particular, information around AI education, right? And then have cross-functional AI champions, right? We heard security champions programs, security mavens. I mean, they're named everything, all depending on the vertical of the sector, but having encouraging students, encouraging people to join interdisciplinary governance committees early in their career, be part of these groups like we are here today. Discord, Raices Cyber, shout out to them. If you're familiar with them, they're a really great organization to be a part of, right? To just foster the community, foster the knowledge, share the knowledge. That sort of enablement and enforcement, right? Two certifications I'm kind of looking at is the AAISM. It's the Advancing AI Security Management, and hopefully somebody dropped the links in the chat so you can get more information around it. It's the first AI-centric security management credential. Prepares you to manage AI threat security landscapes, crafting policy. I heard that today many times over during the day, and then enabling AI into your security operations, right? So that's one. And who it fits for, somebody that's going to be looking to move into an AI security leadership role after being an analyst, a SOC engineer, AI, manager, something like that in the security space. So just because it's an AI certification, you can start with the learning, you can start with the cybersecurity, the domains. It's built into domains, 3 domains. You start getting that knowledge, you start getting that practice, and move it forward to understand how you not only pass the exam, because that's just one part of it, right? I mean, ultimately, it's how you can actually execute operationally on how you're learning on a day-to-day, whether you're a student already 1 to 3 years into the career field. That's one, right? The other one's the advancing AI audit. So that one's particularly for the audit function, but audit function, we need more security people that know what they can do from the day-to-day, that can speak the language. I heard someone, a previous speaker, say, you got to be able to keep them honest, right? Keep them in check. This sort of certification in AI brings IT, brings cybersecurity into the fold, but also validates the skills to audit those AI systems and mitigate AI specific risk. Ideal with grads with something of a GRC background, or they want to go into GRC, right? So having that specialization 1 to 3 years into the early career field, that's a really good one to look at. So use the certification not only as a stepping stone to get certified, but to drive your operational knowledge as you build in year 1 as a student, year 0 as a student, year 2, year 3, all that stuff, right? You're moving forward, you're moving through that cycle of learning the knowledge, and it's a win-win. You get certified, and not only are you right, are you certified? Yes, you move forward, and it's only going to implement and augment your chances of getting a job, right? So looking at the roadmap, those are our students. I have a lot of students here, in the room. So look at senior projects, look at capstones to have AI risk-based teams, right? Look at create a model, right? Have bias testing, adversarial, machine learning, privacy engineering involved in that. Test that out. Start a governance club, right? Start some sort of campus data ethics board in your college if you don't have that in place, right? Get something going to just get the conversation going and get more people to come in and do things, right? And work together. I heard that many times over during the day, right? Once you start working in the industry, once you land your first role, look at a role that touches the data pipelines, right? So SOC analyst, security engineer, request to shadow any AI-enabled output if possible when they roll out, right? When they're doing their testing development. Study that, like I mentioned, study those domains in the governance and the certification bodies. Domain 1, look at policy, look at ethics, review those, and see how they actually, parallel and match what's actually in the training for the certification. That's going to be great, right? So as you move forward, for example, you can lead a mini audit, right, of AI service or contribute to threat modeling sessions. If you have threat modeling in your environment, you can collect metrics on the model's performance, bias, and security incidents, mirroring the domains of the certification, right? And then obviously you have your questions. The ISACA question banks are going to be critical to help you pass this exam. But internally, you're going to be doing training, brown bag, lunch and learns, whatever you want to call them, right, to help understanding the threats of AI in the environment, sharing those MLOps, machine learning, and add that to your resume. Not only just do it, but make sure it's documented. We talked about documentation. That applies to your resume as well. If it's not documented and everything you did in the resume or have some sort of, match and validation, it didn't happen, right? So keep that in mind. So for example, just to kind of, finish it off before we get all the questions, choose a certification, whether it's AI, ISM, AAI, basically AI related certifications that complements your education, your first job, right? Align an academic deliverable to one workplace project to each domain. So Peter mentioned, get a GitLab portfolio, start doing the work, start doing your projects, drop them in there and see how they actually align to the certification, right? Schedule the exam within 18 months of graduation or 18 months within your first role, whatever feels more comfortable. There's no magic formula on when to take the exam, but you want to tackle yourself and challenge and help yourself accountable to understanding, to have the freshest knowledge in mind, but also having everything applicable for what you're learning, not only on a day-to-day but operationally, right? So that's how you build your AI champion program. That's how you have governance as a team sport, and understanding that innovation without guardrails is a liability. Guardrails without innovation are irrelevant. You must learn to master both. So maneuver your way and stay relevant and not be irrelevant, if that makes sense. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions. Hopefully you all saw the links. Look at the magazine with more information. Read those links for the certification bodies. And you have questions, I'm on LinkedIn. Reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to touch base offline. Thank you.
All right, Dirce, we've got questions. So
All
lightning
right.
round. We're just going to bring them up.
Okay.
Uh, start with, what is emerging AI tools should students and educators become familiar with, stay ahead of cybersecurity education? And you can read these yourself, whatever's fastest, or we can read them
Yes.
to you.
Yeah, I'm reading them. Well, whatever's available to you, right? I mean, if those academic programs are using Copilot as an example, right? Or they have something, ChatGPT enabled, instance for the university, right? Use what's available to you. Try to save money, right? I mean, you have the $20 for the AI, license. Okay, for ChatGPT, do it, but just try to use whatever's available to you without spending too much money, because I know students, money's hard to come by, and even professionals, money is hard to come by as well. So just use whatever's available to continue to learn that knowledge and learn how the models are working, how they're doing, whatever it is that you need them to be done, and moving forward. What certifications for students? Like I said, I mean, I think ones to cater to and look to, right, is the AAISM, right, or the AAIA if you're going to be going more into the audit space, right? But there's many other certifications, right? AWS has their own certification for AI. I think Google has their own AI intro level based certification. Microsoft has AI Azure and body of work. So you can start out anywhere, but just have that it's AI enabled, AI enablement, and it's going to help you just understand what you're learning from an educational perspective, how you can apply it as you move into the field, and you can showcase and show a prospective employer that you know what it is that you're doing. You're just not something that you learn in a book, if that makes sense. Okay. I mean, like I said, get involved, right? I have heard that many times over. Get involved with your local ISSA chapters, IC Squared chapters, ISACA chapters. Be part of organizations like Raices, the nice cybersecurity ambassadors framework as well. Networking is huge. Networking is going to be a big part of the help to get you where you need to be, and just be curious, right? Do those projects, get those GitLab projects out there, network, and and see what you can do to actually operationalize something. You can showcase something and put that on your resume, but also show as well. That's a great. I mean, that's a very open question. I mean, it's both, right? I mean, we've seen breaches happen from the human side of it and also from the technical side of it, right? And sometimes they're joined at the hip. So hackers are going to be looking for any vector to be able to gain access to the environment, which is human and technical. They don't care. They just want access, right? So just think scattered spider. I'll just give you that name. Look that up. Oh wow, these are very technical. I mean, research what exactly you're looking for, shifting left and looking at, east to west traffic, looking at how you actually have network segmentation, zero trust. I would focus on zero trust architectures and really help understanding how those look like. For example, there's 19 different ways to implement a zero trust architecture. NIST just came out with some guidance here last month. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. Study that, research that, and see how you can actually apply it to your academic learning here. That's also a very open question. I mean, ultimately, it depends on the organization, that particular HR leader, and director under that avenue, to see how they're going to be able to prioritize you know impact, right? But I think experience is going to trump certifications all day, every day. But sometimes you do have to have those certifications as a minimal viable requirement, right? They call them the MVP. um, and they won't even look at you, they won't even call you if you don't have that. So it's, just have to do your due diligence and research on the company. Okay. Well, I mean, obviously the consequences are, people's livelihoods being impacted, right? Whether that's data loss, stolen identities, and then for companies, major breaches of information that's going to beat them to, liability lawsuits, and just losing the hemorrhaging of money, and loss of trust, loss of public confidence and trust, which is probably the biggest thing that can't be really quantified. So I think that's the most important thing there. So like I said, it's at this point it's not about both. You can intertwine both to understand what you can do. I just gave you two examples of two certifications that quantify IT, cyber into AI. So there's so many different things out there. So they should focus on both if that's what you want to feel you do. And I think what's happening right now in the environment. Like I just heard somebody earlier today saying they're teaching their folks to learn how to do AI, not just secure AI, but learn how to work with AI, because if you don't have that, they're not going to be set up for success. So I think both are needed now. That's a great question. I mean, that's a question for the universities. I think a university that has gotten it down from a certification slash education perspective, probably Western Governors. But I think Western Governors really goes all over the SANS certification, if I'm not mistaken, right? So maybe they should be looking and evaluating if that needs to change. But that's ultimately, case by case basis for the universities. And overloading, I mean, that can also be very subjective, because some people might not be overloaded. Some people think they might be overloaded. So that's a case by case, student by student, university by university situation there. Yeah, I mean, like I said, put in the time to study. I mean, after you get home, eat some dinner, relax a little bit, and get to it, right? I mean, when I went to school my last year and a half, I was taking 18-hour course loads, and I had three jobs. I worked midnight at Target, midnight stalker, so went in at 10 p.m., got out at like 5 in the morning, slept for a few hours, and had class at 9:30, right? And I did that for a year and a half, which is not ideal and not recommended. But if I could do it, you guys can, put in the work, put in the effort, put in the blood, sweat, and tears to get what you need to be, right? I mean, ultimately, it's for you, for your livelihood, for your families. So you got to do what you got to do to, balance, but also not get burned out, right? So you got to go all out, but you got to do it within reason, because then you'll just burn out, and ultimately that's not going to help anyone with that situation. Yeah, no, of course. I mean, those are always going to be having especially the CISSP. CISSP has always been the flagship security certification, right? CISM as well. So they're not going away. They're changing, right? If you notice, those get updated every 3 or 4 years. If you're not familiar with those certification bodies, they get new questions, they get new study material every 3 or 4 years. So depending on where you come in, you might be, if you're using outdated study material and there's new certification that got updated, guess what? You're going to be behind the eight ball, because you're not getting the latest and greatest from a certification standpoint to study. I mean, now with the new changes and new updates, I think all of them are going to start including AI and implementing AI in their study of the certification, body of work. They call it the BOK. So Security Plus, I heard, is looking into implementing AI into their new iteration. Obviously, all the AI. AWS entry level certifications for GCP, AWS, all the big cloud service providers, they're all going to be looking into that, right? So they're all going to be bridging the gap between cybersecurity, AI, and that's only going to be out there, not so much for students, because I haven't, like I mentioned, only 18% have actually direct line of sight to these sort of certifications, but more and more universities and college programs are building that up, right? So I mentioned South Texas College in McAllen, here in Texas, Miami-Dade in the Miami area, and also UTSA here in San Antonio. So all these schools are trying to get ramped up with that. I mean, there's so many, right? I mean, ultimately, it's all about having, a risk assessment performed, having a clear inventory of what's actually using AI in your environment to start understanding what are the limitations, what's actually happening in the environment to find out where they can go, how much they can actually stretch for using AI in their environments, right? So having that sort of line of sight is going to be critical. So that's just part of governance. I mean, yeah. So, be involved, do internships, try to do as much as operational hands-on projects and things that you can put out there for people to see and showcase. And that's only going to help you, get that job, right? I mean, the degree sometimes is just a placeholder, it's just a paper, and it's just, something to get you through the toll gates of the ATS, applicant tracking systems and things like that. But if you can use that to maximize your attention, to maximize your study, to maximize your preparation, to get the certifications, you'll be more job ready than ever. I mean, sometimes it's a win-win. If you kind of work it the right way, you can use the degree to help you augment your knowledge. That's a great question. I mean, it's evolving, right? I mean, AI threats are constantly evolving and constantly changing. What's actually happening now can be critical, not be critical 6 months later, right? I mean, even before that, right? So, I would not focus on the emerging threats as much. It's just understanding the baselines, the foundations, the basics of how to proactively protect an environment. Look at shift left, look at application security, look at involving implemented security at the very beginning of the programming, these sorts of things, infrastructure, zero trust, those sorts of things. And that's going to just kind of help with all the threats that are happening that have AI enablement, right? Because sometimes we're already using AI, we're not even aware of it. And, the technology, the infrastructure is just going to, call out those risks and threats. And if you handle that at that level, you can deal with the AI threats as they come in. It's very important. And I mean, I think SANS has really good hackathons out there. I think we have the director of the summit. I'm sure they probably have a machine learning hackathon or something along those lines to help build that knowledge, build that capture the flag with AI in the mix there, and more capture more CTFs are going to be out there that have AI components. So just look for those, research those, look them up, and try to get signed up as many as you can. That's a great question. I mean, I think it depends on the sector. So more public sector, government, that sort of thing. So think like DIR, like Governor Abbott just changed DIR to Cyber Command here in Texas. So it's going to be aligned more on that. If anything that's private sector, financial services, more critical infrastructure, that's probably going to stay on its own wing. But higher ed, I mean, does play a role because they're pushing out students that are going to be able to work in these sectors, right? So but as far as dictating what's going to happen, I don't think that's going to happen. Um, well, there's no such thing as an underrated cyber role. I think all of them are important. But SOC analysts, I mean, I would just say on SOC analysts, nobody really wants to. I mean, they say they're it's kind of churn, just kind of overpopulated, but they're still out there, right? And and companies still need people to look at alerts and review alerts and triage alerts, and using AI to kind of help automate some of that and give them more visibility into the actual things they need more manual review. So it's not really underrated, but just start with a SOC, junior level SOC analyst role. Um, yeah, we've seen these. There's so many, right? I mean, just look at cybersecurity analysts, security risk analysts, somebody who can perform a security risk assessment. Those are always going to be in demand. Those are always going to be important. As much as far as the most on demand, it just depends on the vertical, the sector, and the organization, right? So, just look at what you want, what's important to you, and what's inspiring for you, and focus on that. So I definitely would start with Security Plus because I mean CISSP, if you're just starting out, it's not going to work. You need at least 5, 6 years in practice on at least 4 or 5 of the domains, if I'm not mistaken. I mean they keep on changing that, but especially with non-technical, start with the foundation, start with the basics, understanding networking, understanding infrastructure, understanding development, understanding all that, if you have no technical background to understand that, and then move up from there. But Security Plus, there's a CC. I heard Certified Cybersecurity earlier today. That's also a great one to kind of get your foot in the door and start going. Any more questions? Okay.
Thank you so much,
yeah.
Dirce. Thank
Yeah.
you for spending the time with us.
We had one more pop in at the last second. That's why I was
Yeah,
just
I saw. Yeah, it's called Traiga, Tragia. Am I satisfied with it? Not so much, because I mean it went into a second revision after the first one. I think the first one was really robust and really important. But obviously, higher leaders at higher levels for companies like Tesla. I'm not gonna name names, right? We know who that is, and all these folks kind of had their way of influencing what actually ended up being passed. But it is gonna be aligned to more federal and government work here in the state with Cyber Command. It's gonna be interesting to see how it can help protect protect people from having AI related misuse and loss of data in the AI space here in Texas. So I think it's good, but I mean, am I satisfied with it? Not so much, because I mean, I really liked some of the provisions that were in the first law, but that got removed in the second and final revision.
okay. That's done.
Thank you for
Awesome. Thank you.
that they spent their Saturday with us, and thank you for coming back into a focused session again.